Welcome back to episode, what is this now, Aleksa?
Episode number 5.
Is it 5? Episode number 5 of the Ball Boys podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Zuver. Aleksa, my man, we're entering. I know we've been saying how sports have been, just off the radar with the amount of consumption we've had of them. But really, it looks like now this is the prime month. We're heading into October, which is usually busy when it's a normal schedule. But now, you name them off, man. What do we got here?
We have NBA Finals, MLB Playoffs, which started today, hockey, which ended last night, and the NFL.
It's in full swing. Yeah, so we're busy right now. And as we're recording this thing, we have the Twins versus Houston Game 1 going on in the background. Shout out to my shout out today is going to be, and I know he won't listen, but shout out to Matt Whistler, who's from my hometown. Him and I, not going to say we're best friends, obviously, but, I was the water boy on the basketball team when he played, so I feel like I have a connection there. Shout out to him. He might get in this game, depending on how it goes. Who's your shout out for today?
Since you did a sports person, I'm going to do a shout out to Kumar. Most likely Pirates are picking up number 1 overall unless some former changes, but I'm ready for Kumar's season.
Kumar Rocker, the pitcher out of Vanderbilt, who hopefully the Pirates get. So today, we're going to get into MLB for the first time on this show. We've never talked about the Major League Baseball. But first, we're going to start with the NBA Finals. They start tomorrow. It's Lakers Heat. Couldn't be more excited. It's going to be such a fun matchup. You got a deep team in the Miami Heat, and you also have a team in the Lakers who a lot of people expected to be here. Aleksa, what are you looking forward to in this matchup? It's going to be interesting, man. I'm excited.
I'm excited as well. First of all, I want to mention a lot of players on each team, this is their first NBA final. So, for example, let's start from the Heat. You have Bam Adebayo, first NBA final. Tyler Hero. I believe Kelly Olynyk.
I think so, yeah.
Jimmy Butler, which is he's the main player. Goran Dragic. And a couple of players on the Lakers, first in NBA finals. You have Caruso, Caldwell Pope, Anthony Davis. Kuzma. We have one more.
McGee. No, McGee's been in finals. Never mind. Well, Waiters. And I also think it's interesting, Aleksa, this is Dwight Howard's first finals since 2009.
2009, yeah.
So he made it that 1 year, and he's a completely different player now, right? He's not as dominant, but I think this year has been important for him because in the past couple years, he's wanted to get back to what he was in Orlando, and he's just not. But he's accepted his role here on the Lakers, and he was a huge part of the Nuggets series. He played extremely well. One thing I want to point out, because this Lakers series ended on Saturday, one thing I looked up, it's from StatMuse. Great site, a lot of stats for every sport. But I saw this thing on LeBron. When he gets 0 days rest when he's playing a back-to-back, he scores 23.1 points per game. 1 day rest, 24.8. 2 days rest, 29.6. But when he gets 3 days rest, Aleksa, which is what this is going to be, when he gets Sunday off, Monday off, Tuesday off, and plays Wednesday, he averages 21.7 points per game. And something I've noticed in LeBron's career, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, a lot of people have pointed this out, LeBron, in his game ones, usually it's sort of a feel-out game for him, and we've seen that even in the Western Conference playoffs.
Especially this year.
Exactly. Doesn't always put out his best effort. He wants to get an idea of what matchups he can exploit. So when I look at tomorrow's game, I don't necessarily see him dominating. I think he's going to try to set AD up, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard with a rim protector like Bam Adebayo for LeBron to go to the rim.
I agree. Also, Iggy will be getting a lot of minutes.
Yeah, and that's another thing, too, that I want to talk to you about. So, obviously, we know LeBron played on the Heat, won 2 titles there, got to 4 finals. This organization knows him well. Eric Spoelstra is still the coach. Jimmy Butler has played him in playoff games before with the Bulls. I think he played in 2 playoff series against the Heat when he was with the Bulls, and then another one when he's in Cleveland. Jimmy Butler knows him well. And just the whole Heat organization, I mean, you have
Haslam too, which
Udonis Haslam, veteran, and he's a big voice in that locker room.
Absolutely. He knows.
And you have Pat Riley, obviously, who I think quietly there's a little revenge at stake for both of these two. It was kind of a salty ending the way LeBron left the Heat. But also, I want to talk about what you said, and I want you to talk about it a little bit more. Andre Iguodala. How do you think he can match up with LeBron? Because they're going to throw bodies at him. They're going to throw Jay Crowder at him. They're going to throw Iguodala and Jimmy Butler. How do you think, out of those 3, let me ask you that, out of those 3, who do you think presents the biggest challenge for LeBron?
So I'm going to say 2 players, but first, if LeBron is guarding, I think the biggest challenge LeBron guarding with Jimmy Butler. But I think if on
LeBron's on offense,
I think Iggy. Iggy knows him. He had battles with him in NBA Finals, especially that block by LeBron. So that Iggy's gonna try now, like getting revenge on that and like taking the challenge on. But I think hands down, Iggy will be the most successful defender on LeBron in this series.
And it's just so interesting. I mean, there's so many storylines here, you know. But yeah, I also think Iggy. I mean, he just has that experience. I mean, I would argue that Iggy hasn't really been that successful in stopping LeBron, but I mean, who really is?
Exactly.
But yeah, they're gonna throw bodies at him. It's gonna be interesting to see how they defend him. But I'm looking forward to it. My prediction is Lakers in 6, because I think the Heat are good enough to get a game off the Lakers, and I also think they're gonna get another game just based on what we just talked about and their knowledge of LeBron and the Lakers. I think that's why they'll get 2 games. What say you? What's your prediction?
Oof. Well, okay. First of all, to start, I think this is the most even series at all this playoffs.
Okay.
I do want Game 7 just for more basketball. If it comes down to Game 7, I think Lakers win, even though I'm hoping my boy Zoki gets the ring.
Zoki!
But if it goes Game 7...
I know that hurts you to say, man. I'm sorry. I know that hurts you to say the Lakers are going to win.
But if it goes Game 7, I think Lakers will have an advantage. But I'm hoping Heat in 7.
So you're in your mind, you say Lakers in 7. Heart says Heat. Gotcha. Okay. So let's move on to MLB Playoffs. I know we haven't spent a lot of time talking about this, but over the course of next month, we'll be talking about it a little bit more. And today, we'll kind of just briefly talk about it. I think this is great. 16 teams is awesome. Now, if they stay with this next year, I don't know if that's necessarily a great idea. Maybe expand it to 12 teams or to 14, maybe. But I think for me in this postseason, Aleksa, I think it comes down to pitching. Exactly. Because do you have enough depth? Because they're not taking many breaks in between games. I think they're playing every single game on the next day. So there's no traveling day breaks, if I can remember correctly. And even if there is, there's more games this year. Do you have enough pitching depth to make it all the way? And in our predictions, I'm saying it's Tampa Bay versus LA Dodgers, because I think those are the 2 best pitching staffs. But I think the winner of the Tampa Bay-Cleveland series in the ALDS, which I'm expecting Cleveland to beat the Yankees in the American League, that's going to be such a great series, because I think the winner of that series can go all the way. Now, you have probably followed baseball more closely than I have. What do you think about this format, and who do you see coming out into the World Series?
Like you mentioned early, I like this format this year. More teams in, a lot of more competition. Because before, if we'll take it away, for example, in the past couple of years, especially the National League, you had teams like Pirates before they were now, where you had Rockies, you also had Diamondbacks. They were all, for example, like 2 games out of playoffs, but they had around 85 wins. So I like this because if it was back then, all of those teams would probably make it with 85 wins. But you said Rays and Dodgers in World Series. I think for my World Series, I agree with you. I think Dodgers are going to make. They're just so talented with Bellinger, Mookie Betts, Kershaw's there. I think they'll make it.
And I think also before you reveal your American League team, it's just time. Like they've been close so many times, and it feels like in a 60-game season, shortened season, this is the time they do it.
I agree. My American team, American League team, this is hard one.
It's so hard. It's wide open.
Oof. I think this is also a year for Yankees to make it. They've been also there in the play, but here's one thing that I think Yankees need to do. This year they were not the best. I know it's only 6 games. They started pretty good, but then after that they kept on losing and losing, then winning a game, then lost 2-3 in a row. So here's where I think they need to have. This is a key player for them this year. And I saw this from the stats from MLB.com. At the pitchers, they signed Gary Cole to massive contract this offseason, 10-year contract. He is only 12th in ERA. Now, if I tell you pitcher has 2.84 ERA, that's perfect. But from Gary Cole perspective, $40 million a year, he needs to be better than 2.84. Gotcha. He needs to be at ERA of around 150 in this playoffs. And they also need Luis Severino to be good. And, I mean, they all have Judge. I think this is their year to make it.
And the Yankees, I feel like, have the toughest road in the American League. They're going to go up against that Cleveland rotation first round, and then most likely Tampa Bay. I just don't know. It's so wide open, and it's hard to tell because we've had such a small sample size from these teams.
Absolutely.
But we're excited. If I was speaking with my heart, I want the Twins to go all the way because, like I said earlier, Matt Whistler for B-Town, Brian. Hopefully he can go all the way. So now, Aleksa, I want you to kind of ramble a little bit. The Stanley Cup playoffs ended last night. So I want you to talk about, because you're a hockey guy yourself, talk about how this season went, how the bubble went, and what your outlook is on next season.
So, Stanley Cup, like Caleb mentioned last night, Lightning won 4-2 series against Dallas Stars. I watched a little bit. I didn't watch all 6 games. I watched a little bit, and something I realized was it was great battle between both teams. I mean, it's Stanley Cup, of course. But here's something that I was happy. Back-to-back games, game 3 and 4, each team, like, for example, one of the game ended 5-4, so it was high-scoring. And I think this playoff, especially this year's playoff, has been more exciting to watch than previous. There were huge upsets in the bubble. For example, Penguins before season they were right there for first place in Metropolitan Division, but then lost a play-in against Canadians who were not even supposed to make the playoffs if this pandemic happened. Yeah. So it's a great competition. Now in off-season, there's going to be a lot of stuff. There's a new NHL team happening. Teams around the league have to protect some of the players.
Kraken, right?
Krakens, yes.
Can't wait for that. I might switch from the Blue Jackets just because the Kraken's logo is so cool.
I like their logo. That is going to be protection and stuff. And then looking down for next year, a couple of teams that could be in the mix. Of course, I have to put out Penguins. When you have Sidney Crosby and Malkin, there's always a shot. But the thing is with Penguins, and since I'm their big fan, I do not like their off-season so far. I do like they added Kaparin in, but I do not like they traded away their first-round pick because every year after year they keep trading their first-round pick, and when Crosby and Malkin retire...
What are you going to have left? Yeah.
Exactly. There's nothing in the minors to build up. I did not like the trade for Hornquist because Hornquist was one of those players that will go in front of the net, hit a goalie, get punched, and draw a power play, and then Penguins will score. That's something I'll miss watching. But Penguins will be there. I hate to say, but the Capitals will be there with Ovechkin and Tom Wilson.
Not a Capitals guy.
Not a Capital, especially with Tom Wilson. But that's something we can talk about in other episodes. Lightning is always, back-to-back.
You can always repeat.
Always.
Absolutely.
Who else we have out there? Stars. I think Stars can make it. I was surprised by them. I think they can also repeat it. Predators could be there. Now, the team that I think could make a big leap and surprise everybody are New York Rangers. They have Capo. Now they just got in a first overall pick, and they're going to draft their left winger or right winger, I believe, who's from Canada. He has a great potential to basically, I mean, New York will be good for maybe one more year, but I think this year they can make to the playoffs and like learn from it. But overall, I miss hockey and can't wait for next season to watch Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby's your boy. All right. So we're not going to make NFL predictions this week because we've had a lot of other things to talk about on this episode. We're just going to give a quick rundown of how both of our teams are doing through 3 weeks. And there's a little uncertainty, and I'm going to get to you again here. A little uncertainty of what's going to happen with the Steelers this week, but we don't have to worry about that right now with some COVID tests in the Titans organization. They play the Steelers this week. Let's just talk about the Steelers for 3 weeks because we weren't sure how Big Ben would look, and he's looked great, and the defense has looked great, and they're 3-0.
Feels nice to say 3-0 because from where they were last year without Big Ben. So starting off week 1, he didn't look good in the first half, but I mean after a year he needs to get back. And second half he returned him himself. They won. Week 2 they played Broncos. I was kind of surprised because Drew Lock left the game early and Driscoll came in, and I thought that would kind of be easy with us going, especially since Driscoll didn't play in years. But Broncos put up a fight and we won by 5 points, but win is a win. And this last week, this I think we played the Texans, who are 0-3, but Texans' first 3 games had to play Chiefs, Ravens, and then Steelers. So the record says, but they have a great team. This week, I think the Steelers played best on the offense. Defense, the first half, we watched the game together. They couldn't stop Watson.
Yeah.
So it is a win, but especially deep down the year, if you have a half like that, it's going to be hard to come back. But so far with Steelers 3-0, it's great. If like next week, there might not be a game with Titans, but if it happens, both teams are 3-0, that is going to be a great game.
Mm-hmm. All right. As far as the Colts go, well, look, we're 2-1. Could easily be 3-0. I don't think anyone can dispute that. Haven't really played anyone yet, but I think in the last 2 games it's been good to see us take care of business, which is something we didn't do in week 1. I'm encouraged by how the defense is doing statistically. They're number 1 in a lot of categories on defense to start the year. I'm happy with the way Rivers is playing. He doesn't have to be Mahomes. He's good enough with the offensive line and the running game that he doesn't have to be like that. He can put it in Taylor's hands, Jonathan Taylor's hands, and he can make plays. One thing I am a little bit discouraged, and it didn't happen this week. There's been a couple injuries in the team that have just been sad in contract years for players like Marlon Mack and Malik Hooker. That's sad, but thankfully this week there really wasn't much. We're hoping to get Paris Campbell back at some point, but we got the Bears this week, and I think that it will be sort of a measuring stick. It's not like the Bears. I don't think the Bears are a great team, but they're better than what we've been facing with the Jets, the Vikings, and the Jaguars. So I'm really looking forward to see how we come out this week, how we deal with Nick Foles. We'll see how that goes, but it's exciting.
Something I want to add up to this NFL, not just particular Steelers and Colts, but my God, is it beautiful watching Patrick Mahomes? I just have to say that last night. I'll admit, when Chiefs moved up and they mentioned a quarterback, I thought Watson was the pick. Mm-hmm. Keep it in context,
Same.
guys. Back-to-back college football finals, Watson. Mahomes was Texas Tech. I mean, no disrespect to Texas Tech, but they were not even close to being top 10 ranked. Mm-hmm. So I was like Watson, and I was like, why? Like, look at Watson and stuff. Look at this now. Like, this is beautiful. I watched last night, and he just makes it look easy.
Mm-hmm. And I think, you can't go wrong with either of those quarterbacks, Watson or Mahomes. They're both great. Their talent's undeniable. I think Mahomes is I mean, he benefits from Andy Reid, who's one of the great play callers, and he has great weapons around him. But, I mean, you can't deny what he's shown in just his pure, raw talent. And he is amazing. And they put on a statement last night versus the Ravens. Ravens haven't been able to beat the Chiefs in the past couple of years.
True.
You wonder if that starts to get in their head a little bit, and if they say, can we really compete with these guys?
And especially, sorry to cut you off, but especially since they're the two teams talked
cream
for
of the crop.
Exactly.
Cream of the crop from that conference. Absolutely.
So, Chiefs put a good point last night, but it's only week 3. There's still time to go, but that benefited the Steelers a lot.
So that's why you're happy.
Absolutely.
That's why you loved what Mahomes did last night. All right, ladies and gentlemen. For Aleksa and I, have a great week. We'll see if we're going to continue to do this once a week, or we might upload one after game 1 of the finals, game 2 of the finals, something like that. But have a great week. Enjoy some playoff baseball. Enjoy the NBA finals. And enjoy week 4 of the NFL season. And we'll catch you right back here next time on the Ball Boys Podcast.